how to avoid depression and anxiety in times of isolation. You can look at that. I've also noticed that quite a number of people are taking advantage of the free time that they have to exercise and just to keep fit. And I think that might be one way to ensure that you ease out that anxiety and that stress. Page 3 of the Standard: hard choices Africa must make in a brave bid to crush contagion. And this, again, is another question that is being asked. We had this discourse yesterday with Mark Bichachi, and he was insisting and saying that many people in the urban areas, for instance, if you're in Nairobi, you should avoid going up country by all means, for many reasons. One, we obviously have a higher number of positive cases in Nairobi, and if you go up country, then you have a chance of transferring that. And the other dilemma, of course, is there are those who say, now that I'm not working, now that we're not, making any gainful income in Nairobi, up country is possibly better placed in terms of cost. I can, at least I can get my daily food just from the farm out there. So why tell me to stay in Nairobi? So some of those tough choices will have to be made, because remember, COVID-19 is the COVID-19 virus is more susceptible, more likely to kill the older than the younger. So when we transfer, move from Nairobi to up country, we have a chance of transferring this to the elderly, and that, of course, means, or you know what that means. Now, on page 4, we have a full story of KQ pilot now pays the ultimate price a week after U.S. rescue flight. Then 12 new cases as firms produce masks. And this, of course, is becoming now the new normal, to have a mask and to wear a mask. But we're also beginning to produce this now locally, of course, to ensure that they are, one, affordable, and two, available to all and sundry. Mass manufacturing of masks has started locally, and in a few days there will be distribution channels. The government has made it very clear that this must be adhered to, and those who are going to be using, for instance, public means or borders, then they must, it will become a requirement that you must wear a mask. As to how available they're going to be remains to be seen. Life in hardest hit cities, Kenyans in France and Italy narrate the ordeal. There are, of course, Kenyans who are now stuck in different countries, and this is, of course, with the current lockdown in most, if not all, countries. This is a story that is on page 6 and 7, and just looking at the anxiety, looking at some of the stress levels that people are going through and wondering how to get out of it and what to do. Now, you can imagine how bad it is even right here in Kenya while you're at home. But now, for those who are locked down in different countries for various reasons, maybe you had traveled and the lockdown got you before you left those particular countries, and maybe you've run out of funds, you've run out of money. There's, of course, restricted movement in those different countries like we have in Kenya, and some even worse than it is in Kenya, the question of food supply and all that. So that's an interesting story to read, and just have another prayer item. If you're one who prays, then you certainly will have one more thing that you can be praying about, and that is your brothers and sisters who are in different countries. Losers in the war against the pandemic, and this is from a business perspective. Cafes and malls, of course, malls now have become literally ghostly in terms of there are no people there. Cafes are another that have been hard hit. In fact, I was seeing an article yesterday where quite a number have been forced to close down because takeaway services may not be doing that well, and as a result, then they have had to close down. So there are many other stories. Failure to self-quarantine is an offense, says Kagwe. Again, another thing that we have been told time and again, but of course the dilemma and the balance is there are those who say, yes, I would like to isolate, yes, I would like to stay home, but the truth of the matter is I have to go fend for my family and look for food out there. People on a daily wage may not have the privilege to be able to stay home and have supplies for several days that they have stocked up like many. So of course the question remains, how do we go through that? And question, of course, is what is government going to do to subsidize, to ensure that everybody has a meal on their table? Planting season is here. How ready are you? This is for farmers. It's time for planting, and of course one of the things that if one is able that you can, I mean, this is a no-brainer, that we are going to have a huge shortage of is food. And as a result, if there's any farmers out there who are able to ensure that they're able to keep up the food supplies and harvesting in another 3 months or so, then that would definitely be a great win. Let's look at the Daily Nation, the Saturday Nation rather, and the headline is very simple: get a mask. That's the headline. Research has confirmed aerosol transmission of coronavirus, and while initial focus has been on sanitization and physical distancing, experts are advising that this could be the ultimate game changer: the mask. Of course, there is the question of what kind of a mask do you wear, how do you wear it, how do you remove it. I've seen all sorts of videos doing rounds on how to wear it, how to remove it appropriately to ensure that you do not make your situation worse. But on the Saturday Nation, you have a full detail of what kind of a mask you should get, why you need to get it, and why that could be the game changer. Quarantine Kilifi DG to be charged. That's a story that's in both dailies, and it is there. So quite a number of interesting stories in the Saturday Nation. To wear or not to wear a face mask, world finally reaches a consensus that it is to wear a face mask. Remember, before it was being said that the only people who needed to wear a face mask is possibly those who are coronavirus COVID-19 positive. But now it has come out clear that social distancing and sanitization and washing your hands only is not going to work on its own. A mask is going to be a must at some point. Virtual hearing of courts cases gathers steam despite hiccups. So that's what we have for you on the dailies this morning. There's a lot more, of course, being a Saturday. There's also those bits of entertainment. But in terms of what is happening in those main sectors, which is the health sector, education, and business, you're well covered in the dailies. So that's what we have for you. For now, let's also take a look at some of the stories making headlines now. A 6-year-old boy has become the latest coronavirus casualty in Kenya. The boy is said to have had underlying issues. This comes as the government confirms that there are now 122 coronavirus cases.
A COVID-19 update in Kenya on Friday yielded some bad news. The 4th death in Kenya from COVID-19 is that of a male child.
This 6-year-old child, we're informed